So the Ghost of Manolo was me paying homage to one of the legendary movies in cinema history, Scarface, and it's based around one of the main characters, Manolo Rivera, who is the partner of Tony Montana in Scarface.
Why focus on the unsung hero angle instead of the typical spotlight main character narrative?
Well, focusing on the main, spotlight character, is kind of typical, and I feel like people would have expected that. So I love the underdog. I'm the type of guy that I always root for the underdog because they always, can accomplish the unexpected. And I feel like Manolo, if we being honest, there's that one of those famous sayings or famous parts in the movie where Tony goes, "Who put this shit together? I did." And on the contrary of that, I always felt like Manolo put it together. One of their first moves or one of their first jobs was because of Manolo's connections. They got their green cards because of Manolo. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot that Manolo did to create the foundation of what Tony and Manolo was able to build off of and eventually be successful from. Because without that green card, they couldn't be in Miami. They couldn't be roaming around. And without that first job, they couldn't have proved themselves to Frank, who was one of the bosses in the movie that they started working under in the beginning, and show and prove that they capable of handling business. So Manolo put in that footwork in the beginning, and I always respected that, and I feel like that's one of the most untold parts of the movie is Manolo's story.
Do you see yourself as that Manolo figure in certain situations, or is it more about people around you?
I feel like there's a Manolo everywhere in the world. I'm not the only Manolo. I can attribute a lot of the things that I've been through in that regard, and I can kind of say that I'm like Manolo in that way. But everybody's story is different, and I feel like me telling it is, like I said, it's like me paying homage to it, but it's also just bringing awareness to the underdog, like we said before, and just you know letting people know that it's all right to come from humble beginnings and become successful in your own way, no matter what it is. So this project is way more personal in a sense that this is one of the first full length projects that I've dropped in a long time. My last full length project was Bodega Dreams 3. And prior to that, I was dropping singles and little one offs, like the All Winners Pack Volume 1. That was like maybe 4 or 5 records. But this one is a little bit more full length. And, I was able to tap into different sides of myself and show the people, my full versatility when it comes to making music and creating. So, yeah, this one's definitely personal. And this one definitely means a lot to me because I was able to show that underdog side of myself and let the people know, like, you know, the way you view me, the way people may have viewed me then is not the way you're gonna view me now and moving forward. Well, investment pieces to start it off. Excuse me, these chopped cheese egg rolls is hitting. Investment pieces is self-explanatory. I'm the type of guy, like, I like to invest and I like to play the long game. And that's kind of what I was, expressing through the record. I was talking about my shortcomings and things I went through because I was frivolous with my money spending. And, I'm just trying to be way more informative this time around. So investment pieces was definitely one of them ones that I felt like was necessary in putting into this project. And Quiet Money, also self-explanatory. Yes, I'm the voice of Spanish Harlem, and I'm that's self-proclaimed. But people ran with it because they understand that anytime I do talk, I'm talking from a place of elevation and just trying push people forward in a progressive manner. So I feel like when it comes to a record like Quiet Money, again, self-explanatory. If you a street dude, if you a working dude, we don't do the money phone. We don't do the throwing it all on the gram and letting the people know. If we do it in a tasteful manner, in a respectful manner, so that when people look at us, they don't look like it's braggadocious because we ain't bragging about what we doing. We just showing people and giving an example so that people could use us as the example to elevate. You know what I mean? We're not doing it to, throw it in people's faces. So again, those records was definitely pinnacle for this project. I definitely was super selective with who I decided to put on this project. I always like to rep my people. And first and foremost, even before they body, they artists and they great MCs. And I feel like Ricky Mapes, Dot Demo, and Austin Sour, they all body, so that's also a plus. But I also feel like as artists and rappers, particularly in New York, we don't really get our just due because they look at us like, most people say, hey, they got reggaeton or they got salsa, or they got merengue, or they already got their genres of music, but they coming over here and trying to be a part of the culture. And I feel like we never really got our just due because of that. And a lot of us get overlooked. So I felt like it was important to include not only them, but not to single them out in that way, to say it that way, but like it's just to showcase that we could get down with the best of them. And we definitely got a crazy pen, especially coming from the upbringings that we came from, and being from New York, period. Like that's just what it is. It comes with the territory. You know how they say you either hooping or you a rapper or any of those things. But like for us, this is a way to explain and showcase our story and the things we went through. As being New Yorkers in New York. So it was definitely important. And I definitely handpicked those three guys specifically. Fly talk is inevitable, but mixing it with informational music, that's what we on. We on progression. We on elevation. We on bigging our peoples up. So we definitely got to make sure there's a perfect balance of both. Because it's but so much we could talk about our fly shit all day. We can't just keep talking about clothes, cars, and jewelry and fly shit. We got to definitely talk from an informative standpoint and let the people know that there's some smarts up here, and we definitely trying to push that narrative forward. So there's a line on the project in Quiet Money that I say the weight that I was carrying, he knew that I could manage it. And said your reputation's as good as gold, don't damage it. And I feel like that's so pinnacle in not only your reputation, but how you show up for yourself and how you show up for others. And again, that's where this project stems from. Is me showing up for that underdog in myself and in others, and me, putting a spotlight on that. So I feel like that definitely represents me as a person currently. Like I'm definitely, heavy on reputation means everything. Relationships, building solid relationships with people, and just over time, just pouring into them and making sure that they stand the test of time. Because you could say, yeah, I know that person or I know this person. We got a decent rapport, but what have you accomplished with those people? What have you done to come together or bring each other together to create or to build something that's worth that's notable and that's worth talking about? So I think those things are definitely pinnacle also in when it comes to my mindset when it came to building this project or putting it together.
If someone listens front to back, what do you want them to understand about you that they didn't know?
Listening to this project is that I'm a man of growth, and I definitely don't stay stagnant. And I think that's one of the pinnacle reasons as to why I put this project together, is that people could understand that whoever knew whatever version people knew about me then is not the same version of me now today. I'm not that man from before. I'm not that guy. I'm not that person. I've definitely grown and evolved into someone who's just way more intelligent, way more aware, self-aware, emotionally intelligent, just in tune with my own emotions and everything that I got going on in my life. And I wish that for everybody in the world, to grow and evolve in that way. So yeah, that's definitely something I would say that people's gonna learn from me from this project. I would say it's all of those in one. Legacy for sure, because I want people to look back and understand why this project was put together and why it's so important, especially in this time. We live in a world where most people gauge success off numbers and perception in the world. And I'm the type of guy, I want you to just put your stuff out there and create and build and just try to elevate on your own terms, not on anybody else's terms and what they got going on. So I would say legacy for sure. I want people to look back and be like, yo, this project was dope. And the way I put it together, I hope that it resonates with people. Of course the recognition comes with the territory. People gonna always say, yeah, the raps was dope. The beat selection was dope. The song structure and the concepts was dope. But how did it make you feel after? Did it make you feel like you feel motivational after? Did you feel inspired? Did you feel like this is something that there's something you could take from it and apply to your everyday life? I think that's the more important thing that I care about, as opposed to, people cheering my name on and all these things. Those are pluses. I appreciate those things, but I want people to look back and say, you know what? Me listening to that project motivated me to do whatever it is that they wanted to do. And I think that's the main thing that I care about the most after creating this project. That's the type of recognition I would like. So yeah. You can find me anywhere your heart desires. any platform, whatever. You could catch me in the hood eating an egg roll. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm out here like a bootleg. You know what I'm saying, on 116th Street. I touch the people. I'm touching the pavement. I'm outside. I'm outside, as they say. You hear them. You hear the streets. They going crazy. But yeah, anywhere, anything Lex Lavo, just type it in, and I'm there. You want to support? You know what I'm saying, we got some good merch. You know what I mean? We out here. We just building. We creating something for the future generations. And yeah, that's what it is.